Hey, what's up? Happy Monday. Let's talk about a book in the Bible that makes a lot of people blush, including Christians, and it is the Song of Solomon. The Song of Solomon. It's a love story, right? It's kind of like three different parts. A little bit of the courtship, a little bit of the relationship, the marriage night, the intimacy of the marriage night, and then the maturing of the relationship. Solomon had 700 wives, 300 concubines. And, it was he loved women, he did. But there was one woman he loved the most, and she was a dark skinned woman. Very dark. Was she dark because she worked in the vineyards? Possibly. She was in the sun all the time, but he cherished her the most, and she became the mother of Robeam, I think his name is, later on to take over after Solomon passed away. And her name is Naamah was her name, and he cherished her greatly, and he loved her greatly. And she desired to kiss Solomon. She desired to, even daydreamed about being with Solomon at one point. So when they did come together, there was a very, very, connection in that. She was ashamed that she was a dark-skinned woman because the other women were light-skinned. They were fair-skinned. But she was very dark, very tan, and that's attractive. When I met my wife, all you could see was the whites of her eyes and the whites of her teeth because she was so tan, and that's a big attraction for a man. And the more you read about Song of Solomon, the more intimate it becomes. But the way he talks to his woman, his wife, I don't think a lot of women today would like your husband to talk to you like that on your wedding night. He compares her to goats. He compares her to sheep, her teeth to sheep, her temples to pomegranate. He talks about her breasts being towers. Um, you know, he compares her to a lot of things. But in Hebrew, the way they did that was because it was very poetic and very romantic, they thought, in those times. And the woman enjoyed it. They didn't mean that you were insulting me by calling me like a sheep or a goat, but you are comparing me to something that you cherish, a fruit that is very sweet tasting. He talks about underneath her tongue tastes like, different fruits. Her breath smells like, different kind of wine as he's, kissing her. So it's a very romantic, very intimate book. We don't talk about this a lot as Christians. We're like, oh no, we can't really speak about that. Well, why not? Because when you come together with a woman in marriage, there is intimacy, right? I mean, it's supposed to be intimate. And, when you look at your wife in a different way and your wife looks at you in a different way, it's a big, huge, it builds your relationship tighter and tighter and tighter. Also in the Song of Solomon, when it talks about the fig tree, it's also prophetic of things that Christ talked about with the fig tree in the book of Matthew. Also, when you see the intimacy of Solomon and his wife, it's kind of the intimacy of Christ in the church as well. So, he loves the church. So when you get into these, the Song of Solomon, don't be embarrassed to read it. Don't be embarrassed to discuss it. Sit down with your husband or your wife and read it and go over it because it's a real true love story. It's not a real long book to read. You can read it in just, about 20 minutes or so. But, it's an intimacy in that, and it's awesome to see how the Lord has that in there for us, whereas sex as a couple in marriage is a good thing.